Hi my friend, today I will tell you about the top 10 richest fighters in the history of the UFC. Let's start, and with you, like and subscribe is the best motivation for me. In MMA, only novice fighters earn relatively little. They fight either for respect or for a fee equal to the subsistence minimum. In the UFC, the numbers have flown far ahead. Fighters raise cash at their training centers and advertisements. Excellent cutlets fall off in the best league in the world. I have collected the 10 richest fighters who are no longer performing in the promotion. Number 10 is Alistair Overeem. Fortune: $10 million. Main achievement: Strikeforce heavyweight champion. The ex-champion of the heavy division noticeably passed after the arrival of USADA. The fighter in prime resembled a barrel inflated with drugs, but we envy his form even now. In the middle of the second decade of the 21st century, the Dutchman was one of the main strands of the planet, spectacularly fighting with the status opposition. A lot of time has passed since that moment. Alistair is no longer in the UFC, but he earned great money in the promotion. Tapology believes that the athlete earned $4.5 million during his career. According to MMA salaries, this amount is inflated to $10 million. This is due to the solid receipts at the end of Alistair's career. He received $500,000 for each fight. Number 9 is Frank Mir. Fortune: $12 million. Main achievement: UFC heavyweight champion. The famous veteran lit up in the noughties. Then the American received the temporary heavyweight title after defeating Antonio Nogueira and gave out his longest win streak in his career. But the competition among the fighters was so high that Frank was quickly removed from the throne and sent to Bellator, where he lost to the fading Fedor Emelianenko. According to Tapology, the fighter received a little less than $2.5 million in prize money alone. Together with the proceeds from Bellator and advertising contracts during the sports career, this amount is inflated to $3.8 million. After the end of the performances, Frank worked for the UFC as a security director and commentator. A solid cash was transferred to the fighter from an exhibition boxing fight in the card of the Half-Askern tournament and from his own business. Frank has his own network of gyms, and his annual earnings are equal to $1 million a year. Number 8 is Chuck Liddell. Fortune: $12 million. Main achievement: UFC light heavyweight champion. Liddell was one of the main stars of the UFC in its heyday. His iconic beef with Tito Ortiz is forever in the hearts of mixed martial arts fans. The prime of the fighter ended in 2007, when he was punched by Rampage Jackson. From the same time, the fighter performed less and less, the results declined sharply, and in 2010 he finished his professional career. With prize money and salary in the UFC, Chuck knocked out a little more than $4 million. Even during his career in the best league in the world, he actively invested in real estate, selling and buying houses in elite areas of California. Cash also comes from advertising. Chuck has become the face of Zion's energy drink and Bud. The athlete earns money from movies. He has more than 30 films on IMDb. Liddell raises $1 million a year with advertising and additional earnings. Number 7 is Ronda Rousey. Fortune: $14 million. The main achievement: the UFC champion in the women's bantamweight. An athlete who made MMA fans fall in love with women's mixed martial arts. The American woman set UFC records, became the first woman in the Hall of Fame of the promotion, and built her personality into a cult. The best league in the world paid the MMA star well. Ronda earned more than $4 million during her career in the UFC. After mixed martial arts, the athlete moved to wrestling, where she also receives a lot. She is paid $1.5 million a year for a contract with WWE. Ronda invests the money she receives in business. She has opened her own brand of sportswear. Number 6 Vanderlei Silva. Fortune: $18 million. Achievement: Pride middleweight champion. According to the rules of MMA, Vanderlei performed in the last century. But then the time was different, and the rules were different from the current ones. The Brazilian burned out the middle division in Pride, took over the promotion title, and ended up in the White League at the end of Prime. Moreover, one of the reasons for buying the UFC of the Japanese league was the Brazilian. Dana admired Silva's performances. In the best league in the world, the athlete performed terribly, having left the UFC in 2013. Due to the early start of his career, compared to other fighters, Vanderlei earned only $1.6 million according to Tapology. His own gym and a sea of advertising contracts helped him to significantly increase his capital. The fighter is still wildly in demand in Brazil. Number 5 is Tito Ortiz. Net worth, $25 million. Achievement, UFC light heavyweight champion. Back when he was an MMA fighter, Ortiz often complained about low fees. Quarrels with Dana White hindered his professional career, but the American was constantly raised his salary after his requests. The payments were justified by the results. Ortiz became the UFC light heavyweight champion and constantly participated in the main events of the promotion. According to Tapology, the fighter earned $3.5 million for his performances. Tito's main cash comes from business. He is the chairman of the board at Punishment Athletics, co-owner of the Primetime 360 Fighting Agency and owner of the Training Hall. Thanks to this, since 2019, the fighter has been steadily raising 2 llamas a year. Number 4 is Brock Lesnar. Net worth, $25 million. Main achievement, UFC heavyweight champion. At a time when UFC fans only wanted a spectacle, Brock Lesnar fulfilled the wishes of the fanbase. The fighter behaved well outside the octagon, became one of the main faces of the promotion and made good money on it. Because of the name and influence on the league, the athlete was even dragged along the easiest way to the title holder. He fought for the belt with Shane Carvin after 3 wins in the league. And for 8 professional fights, White brought the star fighter a cutlet of more than $5 million, half of which fell on Lesnar's last battle with Mark Hunt. The salary in WWE is also pleasing. Depending on the number of appearances, Brock rose from $5 to $10 million annually. The fighter spends money wisely, throws it into real estate and into the development of his own clothing brand. Number 3 is George St. Pierre. Net worth, $35 million. Main achievement, UFC welterweight and middleweight champion. Before Khabib gained star status, it was George who was considered a symbol of invincibility in the UFC. The fighter passed all the tops of his weight category, returned after an injury and became a champion in a new weight. But the audacity of St. Pierre was clearly not enough. The athlete modestly behaved outside the octagon and did not always conduct spectacular fights. According to Tapology, the Canadian earned only $2 million in prize money and salary. In reality, with pay-per-view, the fighter raised many times more. According to journalists, the Canadian earned more than $5 million at UFC 158 alone, and St. Pierre had several such large-scale earnings. Now the fighter raises on advertising and training. His annual earnings according to CA Knowledge are estimated at $2 million. Number 2 is Khabib Nurmagomedov. Condition, $100 million. Main achievement, UFC lightweight champion. Khabib's sporting achievements are known to everyone. The champion of the lightest weight, the winner in the loudest fight in the history of MMA and one of the most famous fighters on the planet. But the earnings data differ, and according to Tapology, he does not have so much prize money from fights, only $2.5 million. And with PPV, the fighter Defy Nightly raised much more. Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov estimated his son's fortune at $100 million in 2020, American Resources at $40. Most of the earnings came from advertising. According to various estimates, one advertising post of Khabib costs from $100,000. $7 million to the fighter flew away for the contract with Gorilla. The income brings its own promotion and business in the UAE. Number 1 is Conor McGregor. Fortune, more than $200 million. Main achievement, UFC featherweight and lightweight champion. The athlete who changed MMA consistently received the best performance fees. And it's not just about the Irishman's prime. Now Conor earns much more than during the championship times. According to Forbes, McGregor was paid $33 million for the third fight with Poirier, and Tapology estimates his income from fights without additional bonuses and PPV at $40 million. Let's add here an excellent sale of the majority stake of Proper 12 for $150 million, huge advertising contracts and a solid cutlet for the fight with Mayweather. As a result, we get more than the resources with the salaries of athletes offer. The $200 million bar has long been passed by the Irishman. My friend, that's it for me. As always, like and subscribe from you. And write everything down. What do you think about this video? Write in the comments. Wow.